Thanks for joining us for another episode of Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. We're back at the start of draft week as we share with you our NFL draft betting preview. Myself, Byron and Joe have been hard at work in the lab, cooking up our best bets for the first round, mainly, of the 2025 NFL draft, which we'll be bringing you live. Well, we won't be bringing you the draft live, but we'll be live while the draft's on Thursday, so make sure you check out that. But hopefully we're going to give you some tips for some winners on Thursday. Byron, Joe, it's draft week. It's the last big event we've got before we're heading to that kind of lull period. No?
Not the lull. Let's not acknowledge the lull. It's draft week.
It is draft week. And you know what? It's a great week. It's definitely one to be excited about, and we're going to be live for it. I'm just regretting that I'm going to be up till 5:30 in the morning and have to work the next day. That's what I'm already thinking about come draft night. But how are you feeling? How's your prep been? Do you feel like you found, we'll talk about the bets in detail, but do you feel like you've managed to find some value? Do you feel like you've got some good winners there? How are you feeling about kind of how that draft's going to play out versus your bets?
I think I found some volume. As we'll see on my sheet, kind of let loose a little bit this year.
Starting to go on.
Yeah, with it being, I kind of think the draft starts at 4 this year. I think we kind of know who the top 3 are going to be, pending something wild. So I've tried to kind of do my best to hopefully take advantage of that, and I think there might be a lot of things we don't expect. I think it's going to be a very fun Thursday night,
Joe, how are you feeling? You've been hard at work in the background already, getting the graphics done. How are you feeling about your kind of lineup for Thursday night?
Yes, it's an interesting one. I think you obviously get some good money on some of these bets because just one random trade, one picks like the Penix Jr. Last year just throws out all you're thinking of the bets, especially when you're trying to bet mid-round to figure out, which team's going to get which, and then someone drafts what no one expects, and then it throws everything out. So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to slightly disagree with Byron now. I think number 2, like the second pick, where the odds have gone, it's going to be crazy to what we probably not crazy. But who we expected to go is now plus money. With Shadir being the favourite to go to the Browns at number 2, so I think that throws it out and where that lands. And I don't think the Giants have as much need for a quarterback. So I'm a bit like everyone knows what's happening at number 1, but I think after that, I think it could be up in the air, and it's the Browns. Anything could happen. So,
it is. I think obviously we were all expecting Abdul Carter to be a solid number 2. I think for a while to the Browns, and then that's obviously flipped to Travis Hunter. That one was the mystery of what's might not be a mystery anymore, but what's likely to happen with Shadir. And I'm interested because I think he's kind of that 4. I think probably 5 at what Jacksonville decide to do at 5. I think that's where then maybe the fun begins. I think 1 to 4's pretty settled unless there's a trade, of course. So we'll see. But how do we do? Should we kind of just rattle through what we've got going and then?
Sure, I think you're first up, Paul, right?
Yeah, I am. Quick one, because we just mentioned them by name, Travis Hunter and Shadir Sanders a little bit. Did you see that Colorado retired their jerseys this week?
Yeah, Colorado's an interesting place with Dion in charge, isn't it? Let's just maybe say it that way.
Yeah, they've got a Heisman Trophy winner within the last 25 years that hasn't had their jersey retired.
Yeah. But didn't play for Deion Sanders.
No.
And isn't related to Deion Sanders.
Yeah. Strange. Anyway, let's get to the bets. Joe, shout out for the fire graphics. He's outdone himself yet again. Another season, another great run. Byron, if you will do the honours in the background. So, I suppose I'll talk through mine, or we can talk through them together, I guess. So I've taken a couple of the draft positions over-under bets where I think I've seen some value. So whether the potential that there's some slide or have got players jumping up the board that I don't necessarily agree with. So I've gone Mason Graham to go under 5.5 at plus money. So I think he for a long time he's been slotted in at that 5 for the Jaguars. Seems to suggest that obviously the plus money suggests potentially maybe going a little bit later. I just don't really see the Jaguars passing on him. I think the only consideration then would the Jags be taking Ashton Genty at 5 to let Mason Graham go? But I think their need for interior of the D line and to stop the run is so great. And 5 on a running back when you're not really in that position to take advantage of a running back that good would seem a strange one to me. But that, the Jacksonville Jaguars are who they are. And, they could make a rogue move that rather than kind of solidifying what they've got. So I just can't see Mason Graham dropping out that top 5. And for some reason, there's that value of plus 160 was better. I think that's slightly better odds than him just being a top 5 pick, which I found quite strange. I don't know if that's just because of the breadth of odds you can get or breadth of the market. It just seemed odd. I think he's 8-5, which is, I think that's more like 140, isn't it? Is that right? Or is that similar? Might be similar by now.
On DraftKings, it's minus 110 to be a top 5 pick. So plus 160 to be under 5.5.
Yeah, it's in essence the same bet.
Makes total sense. Yeah.
So that's why I took the value there. And then Golden, I'm not as convinced on Matthew Golden. There's the speedster out of Texas, but the line on his draft position is 17.5. I can see him going in the first round, absolutely. And I think he likely will, but I would see him going much later on. I think we had in our fans draft, he went mid-20s. Is that right? Was it the?
He went to the Rams at 26. I think the
Rams
number
at 26. Yeah. So if he's in, kicking around mid to late 20s, I see that. I just don't see him going before, 17 and under. It would seem to, and that would suggest that there's been a run on the wide receivers, I think, for me, where I've got him ranked. So that would be that maybe 3 or 4 have gone. And I also don't see that happening by the time we get to pick 17. So plus 120, I've got on Golden. There's a great stat that I saw earlier on Matthew Golden, and I need to give the credit. It's one of the Cowboys UK Cowboys guys. So in the last 10 years, only 2 wide receivers that have never had 1,000-yard receiving season in college have been drafted in the first round. Henry Ruggs and Kadarius Toney.
I was going to guess Ruggs. I couldn't think.
I should have done that.
Pick a Toney though.
Yeah, and Kadarius Toney is the other one. So
makes sense,
yeah, I feel like there's just something for me that, especially if you're going to be, you're talking about spending a mid-first round pick on him. I think teams would want to have seen more production out of him. Like I said, I think later on when we've talked about when we've been doing our drafts, where there's just a bit of much of a muchness, maybe. But yeah, I'm taking Golden plus 120 to be picked 18th or later. Any thoughts on those two?
Yeah, I like the Graham one because even if Shedeur doesn't get drafted by the Giants, I could see the Patriots getting him in at 4 as well. He seems like that kind of Patriots player where they're trying to beef up that line. I've seen most of mock drafts that does have Graham at Jacksonville, so it would be a surprise if he slid. And the Golden one, it's one of them weird ones where this year where it feels like a lot of positions, it's just who do you prefer? It feels like wide receiver is one of them. Cornerbacks the top 2, the edges after Carter. It's just which player does the team prefer and how does it fit into their scheme? So I've seen I think all the time I've seen Golden mock draft higher than that was to the York Cowboys, which would be taking a Texan. I'm sure you guys wouldn't be happy with that, but it makes sense why it would be that kind of wide receiver with CeeDee Lamb, why the Cowboys would get him. Plus me, I think he could slide. But again, it's just what teams. It's just I think it's just a toss up with some of these positions of which player do they prefer.
Yeah, and I like the value on the Mason Graham one. The closer the draft's getting, it's hard to tell with the smoke and mirrors and stuff, but I'm more convinced that Jacksonville are going to go offensive playmaker. We'll see one of my bets on the next slide. But certainly for all the consensus picking so far, I think getting plus money on Mason Graham, essentially to Jacksonville, is a smash of a pick. I can't believe you're getting plus money on it, truthfully. So I love that. I like the Golden one as well. Like Joe, all I've seen is him to the Cowboys or later than 17.5. So hopefully Dallas don't do it for so many reasons. Mainly, I don't want him in Dallas, but also it'd be nice to have your bet win. Golden is the favorite to be second wide receiver selected with betting markets, and might as well just put this disclaimer out now. Whenever we say X wide receiver drafted or X cornerback drafted, if we have any, for all purposes, Travis Hunter is a cornerback for these markets on all these betting sites, regardless of what happens or what is announced as. Travis Hunter is a cornerback for these purposes. So, yeah, Ted McMillan is favored to be first wide receiver drafted, and then second is Matthew Golden, which I find stunning. Like you say, that analytical profile is not non-existent.
And that touches on my second bet. I might as well just rattle it off here. Yeah, I've also got Egbuka to be the second wide receiver off the board. So I think that'd be McMillan, Egbuka, and plus 650, so 13-2. We've talked about him a lot. And again, we talked about I just think he's just more kind of pro-ready than a lot of the others. And while that's a second wide receiver, I still think that might end up being quite late on. I think it might even be after halfway. His line for draft position was 29.5, which I find I'm absolutely baffled by. Yeah. So again, that it does speak to people maybe looking at the flash speed of Golden and Burden to an extent as well. But yeah, I don't know if I'm in that mid first round in those teams, looking at those teams, I'd probably be going with I'd probably want to take an Egbuka to fit with what I've got. So we'll see. That seems a bit. It is a long shot, plus 650, given where the market's gone, and given Egbuka's draft over/under position. But yeah, I like him as a second wide receiver to go. I think he's just much more well-rounded. Cool. Might as well cover off my top tens. Ted McMillan seems to be sliding on boards everywhere. I understand that. I can't see how he falls out of the first round. I don't understand why. Can't see why he's I'll start that again. Can't see why he's slated to drop out of the top 10. Surely one of those teams is going to take him, or if somebody who's going to move up to take him if it gets to kind of 7, 8, 9 and he's still not gone. Plus 175 seems strange. I've got him as again, put Travis Hunter to one side. He's the best pure wide receiver for me still. I'm just finding it very, very strange that the odds are suggesting he's going to slide out of the top 10. So I'll take my plus money there. And then a longer shot for top 10. This is a player that I've spoke very positively about and highly about. Jade Byron. I think he's a top 10 player in this draft in terms of talent. I've just taken a punt that he'll get taken in the top 10. It's plus 750. It's 15 to do. It's much longer odds. It's unlikely, which is why it's plus 750. But I just think he might go before Will Johnson, and potential that then one of those other teams takes Byron inside the top 10. That could be the weird one that Jacksonville make, even though it's not really a need. That again, the versatility that we've talked about, but yeah, that how they see him. Someone's going to see him really high, and I think if he's kicking around still at 7 and 8, someone might just make up and move up a few spots just to make sure they can get him. Yeah. So I like Jade Byron plus 750. And then just a few others. Again, I've got a couple more long shots. I say long shots for me. Plus 750. So I've got 2 bets on the Cowboys for position of team first pick. So just the way I'm expecting the board to fall for the Cowboys, I don't think they're necessarily going to be able to take and fill their biggest needs. But I guess my first bet does cover that, because I think the interior of the defensive line is their biggest need. But the way the market works, you get defensive line / edge. Plus 750 for a D lineman for the Cowboys with their first pick. Huge position of need. And I've also gone cornerback, same odds, plus 750 for the Cowboys, position of team first pick. And I think that might just be how the board falls. So then potentially that could be Byron, so it doesn't hit my top 10 bet, but could be Byron, could be Will Johnson of Michigan, the cornerback. And while it's not a pressing need for the Cowboys, actually they've lost Jordan Lewis. They've had big injuries to Diggs and Bland. Diggs is likely going to miss the start of the season. Cornerback depth could be good. So that's why I've taken those. Plus 180 for the Niners to take a D lineman or edge rusher with their first pick. Again, need interior defensive line, might be a reach at 11, but there'll be plenty of those edge rushers there if they want to take one. And then I've gone Chiefs and Jets. O-line. So I should say it's O-tackle. It's O-lineman, full stop, the market. So I should have put that on. Apologies, Joe. I think I just put O-tackle on by accident. But yeah, O-line, Jets O-line, Chiefs O-line. So it's minus 125 for the Chiefs and even money for the Jets. And we've seen Membu kind of penciled into the Jets for quite a long time, I think. So yeah, I like those as two shorter odds. Thoughts? I know I rattled through a lot there.
Yeah, I almost think when you talk about the trade up, you might hit 2 750s in one if Cowboys trade up for Jordan.
Cowboys, yeah.
Don't need to move far to get into the top 10. And kind of discussing trades in this draft. I don't know if there'll be a ton. Maybe there will. I think there might be. I don't think it's going to cost much to move anywhere in this draft because I think it's, we've discussed it a lot. It's so kind of flat. So yeah, if you're Dallas and you want to move up from, 12 to 8, what's that going to cost you? A third rounder, fourth rounder? I think it's so flat that teams are just going to be happy to move down and require more capital and take more shots. So yeah, I think you could almost tick off two, CB 750 for Dallas and Jardy Byron in the top 10 at 750 there. Yeah, I think getting plus money on D-line edge for the 49ers, again, unless they go corner, again, Joe, you'll have more actual insight maybe into the 49ers plans than I do, but I think it's going to be defensive, considering how bare that room is, unless an all-lineman falls to them.
I was just about to say that. I think if it falls where like a Will Campbell or or the
Membu,
the one, if one of them drop, I can imagine that, because I just think with the defensive line edges, it's pick your poison, the ones afterwards, and it's like, do you want to reach up when they could go cornerback as well if one of them, because they're just before the Cowboys, so that would be if Byron is available, that'd be my choice.
Yeah.
Sorry, just have to put myself on mute. A little sneeze there.
Yeah. And I like the other ones as well. I think the Chiefs is fairly. It'll be surprised if they don't go there. Again, that might be more if all the O-lines have gone and people have jumped up and taken them players. But I think there's still enough for them to take someone. And yeah, the Jets it's just, I think it's in between the O-line or Warren. Are they going to do it again? But I think it evens money. The smart thing is to do the O-line. Will the Jets be smart? That is the question. There's certain teams where you just don't trust what they're going to do. They were smart last year, even though they could have got Brock Bowers, but they still got, thinking smart in terms of protecting the quarterback. But I think this year, again, they should do the smart move and go all-line and Paul win some money.
That'd be nice. But it's Jets to go tight end, so you'd be thinking Tyler Warren there. That price plus 275. So obviously probably get slightly better odds on Tyler Warren, so you might as well just go there because surely he's the first one coming off the board. So, but yeah, pencil in that if that's what you think. Tyler Warren at 7. I mean, what odds is that? I guess then you just limiting yourself if they potentially do move around. Oh, it's 3 to 1, so plus 300. So yeah, if you think the Jets are going to take that tight end at 7, you can get slightly better odds if you just freeze them at 7 and take, plus 300. And then my last two positions to be drafted in the first round, running backs under 2.5. I just can't. I still think it might just be the one. I think it might just be Gentry. Obviously there is Amari and Hampton and maybe Trayvon Henderson. But I just, given the need, where they're at in the needs, I think that those guys like to go in round 2. And Gentry, be the one. But I suppose I've got a one running back buffer. I've gone under 2.5 at minus 200. And then, another real short one. Wide receivers over 2.5. I don't understand this line. Why, again, Travis Hunter's to one side. But, with where players have been being mocked, which I suppose that's the whole point of the mock draft, but where the lines are for these wide receivers, their over-unders. I think you've got McMillan, Burden, Egbukper, and Golden all with a round one over-under position, unless something's changed. So that suggests 4. Why is the line 2.5? So yeah, I've smashed that because I just think it's crazy. As 3 of those guys are going to go. 3 of McMillan, Burden, Egbukper, and Golden are going to go in those first 32 picks. I expect all 4, but 3 of them certainly will. So yeah, minus 250. Yes, that's me, guys. Yeah. Found it a little bit difficult. So usually I'd go for things like the exact order and things like that, but some of those markets aren't up, or they're only giving you kind of not many options. So yeah, that's what I'm going to go with for draft night.
Yeah, DK in the US do have the top 5 exact order of. Well, I mean, you can pick your poison, but like if we go with the consensus as what it's rumored to be, which is Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Will Campbell, Mason Graham, it's plus 130. I kind of hate that as a price because, like I say, I think the first 3, I think you can kind of put in pen at this point: Ward, Hunter, Carter. But Will Campbell seems a very strong favourite to go 4, fair enough. Mason Graham feels a strong favourite to go 5, but like I just think that's asking so much for just 1 plus 130.
Plus 130, yeah.
It's just such a short price. So yeah, I mean, if you want to get wild and start picking your own poison after that, you do get much better odds. But like even subbing out Graham for Ashton Jenney, he only takes it to plus 225. So it's like, yeah, it feels like everyone knows what's happening this year, which I think is probably going to lead to a pretty interesting draft because I think that's when we end up looking a bit silly because things don't always go as we anticipate them. Very rarely, in fact.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, cool. I will move the slide on to the bumper list of my picks. So I'll just start top left and work my way through. So I have a lot of picks in this thing. Again, I think it's going to be a bit of a wild draft night, truthfully. So fingers crossed. Player to be drafted by, and this market has moved a lot since I pasted it, but I had Travis Hunter plus 425 to go to the Browns. That market now doesn't even exist on DraftKings, but Travis Hunter is minus 900 to go to the Browns, or the number 2 pick. So presumably the Browns don't trade out. Hopefully not for me. But yeah, I was really pleased to get that on. And then within days that started moving, Andrew Berry seems to be in love with Travis Hunter, comparing him to Otani. And yeah, it doesn't feel like they're doing a great job of keeping the cards close to the chest. Or they're doing a very good job of drumming up trade interest. I'm not too sure, but hopefully for me, it means they're taking Travis Hunter at 2. I've gone Tyler Warren to the Seahawks at plus 2,500. And I'll just tie in here as well. One of my first/second positional players, I have Colson Loveland to be the first tight end drafted at plus 500, which those two kind of go together. I just think, and I've seen this a lot from, not decision makers, but strong media opinion makers, Daniel Jeremiah, Dan Brugler, Todd McShay. They're essentially neck and neck. Some have Loveland ahead even of Tyler Warren, and I think that's maybe how it played out on draft night. Warren, I think he's going to take more maneuvering into an offense, whereas Loveland is much more of your typical tight end who will play the traditional tight end role. If somebody falls in love with Warren, then he's obviously going to go, if somebody ahead of Colson Loveland. I think there's more chance, a team specifically falls in love with Warren, but I don't think there's going to be as many teams that do, if that makes sense. The Saints could be one of them and take him at 9. But again, there's not many options, I don't think. They might use him as like a Taysom Hill type, which we've kind of discussed with the Saints and me guys taking him in their pick in our Fans on the Clock draft. But I just think more teams are going to view Loveland as someone to plug in right away and use him as a regular tight end. So I love the price at plus 500 on him there. I think the Seahawks are a sneaky tight end needy team. I think they're going to use a lot of 12 personnel, 2 tight ends on the field. So I also have them taking a tight end with their first pick at plus 650, whether that is Warren or Loveland. Obviously, for my sake, I hope it's Tyler Warren because that is plus 2,500. I think that kind of wraps up all of that as one little thing there. I also have Ashton Jenney to be taken by the Broncos at plus 1,200. Obviously, that requires a trade up, but again, I don't think it's going to take a huge amount to trade up this year. because teams are going to want to acquire more capital. It reminds me a little of one of the worst drafts we actually had in terms of talent was the 2013 draft when Miami traded up from, was it 12? 12 to 3, and all they gave up was pick 42. And I just think it's going to be one of them kind of drafts where you can get up into premium-ish picks for not too much. So moving up from 20 to, say, 6 or 7, I think is going to be more doable than you might think in previous years. I don't think you're going to be able to do it for just a second because 20 rather than 12 in that scenario, and it is a different draft. But I don't think it's going to cost a ton. And I've been saying this since before January, essentially. If there's one player to team fit, I can just see someone relishing, it is Sean Payton would, I think, give an awful lot to get Ashton Jenney on that Broncos team. They're very well-rounded. I always think they need more pass catchers, but he seems kind of adamant that they'll make do with what they have. It's never been a priority since he got to Denver to hugely boost that room. And I think Sean Payton, again, would kind of rip your hand off to be able to get his hands on Ashton Jenney. So I think they'll definitely start making calls to Jacksonville, Vegas, New York, depending on how far Jenney falls. If any of them are in love with him, obviously, you kind of have that issue. But for where Denver are, I don't think they have a huge amount of needs. And I think they could be happy to give up capital, whether it's this year and next year or this year only, to go up and get him. And I think the price plus 1,200 is, very appealing. For a player, again, as a player, Ashton Jenney is a home run. But it's always that positional value. You know, if he goes number 5 to the Jags, he'd be the 6th highest paid running back in the league instantly. You're not getting that if you take a tackle. You know, he's been like the 25th highest paid tackle, for example. So, I just kind of think there's room for someone to come up and get Jenney who loves him, and I think that would be Sean Payton. Do you want to give any thoughts on those, or do you want to carry on moving on and we'll go to more as we go?
Yeah, I think obviously the Jenney one's reliant on a lot, but that's why it's 12 to 1, isn't it, ultimately?
Yeah.
But it's just, and I just think the Raiders, it'd have to be a pretty enticing offer, even though, like I said, shouldn't take much given the talent, but to give him up, I think they might want a bit more. And I don't know if it becomes a bit rich then to do it, given what you can get with, where they already are at 20. So,
yeah. I think it's because he's got that reputation as well as like, he's a can't miss. He sent out that, that message to everyone. So then to be the team, and it's like, for example, the Raiders will have to give it to their, Division 4s.
Yeah.
You don't want to give up that kind of player, and then it doesn't work out as well. We've just seen with Saquon how that, how the fans and the media react to do that, and the Raiders are trying to change what they've been. And I wonder if there's any other teams would try and jump up who are below them. But that's the price. And if he starts falling, like you said, if there's some teams that are like, we don't need a running back yet, and it's quite a lot of money, then they might all be able to have to jump up to 10, for example, to like with the Bears and whoever.
So the only way I see Jenney falling is I suppose, and it might be he needs to kind of fall maybe out of that past the Raiders to do that. Is there are lots of trades potentially, and then the Broncos might be able to move, or someone might be able to move. Because you've got, are the Raiders going to, given what the Raiders need, wide receivers a big need, but are they going to be the ones to pop the cap on the other wide receivers at 6, maybe? Everything's suggesting that's not going to be the case with how Ted McMillan's falling, and I don't think anybody's jumped up that far to suggest that they'd go at 6. So, I think it's a good shout, but again, there's a reason why it's 12 to 1, and could end up being great value.
Cool. I'll carry on rolling through. First, second position players. So, obviously, I also mentioned Colston Loveland, plus 500. I doubled down on Egbuka. I have him as first and second wide receiver to go at plus 1,400 and plus 650. You've already touched on him. I think he's just he's so pro-ready. I think teams and coaches are going to absolutely love him. To me, he's Chris Godwin, he's a Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's a willing blocker, he does the dirty work, he catches everything. If you ask me, again, I think I might prefer him to Ted McMillan in terms of just like plug him in and play. Ted, I think, has the higher upside. I think I compared it to like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin on one of our previous podcasts. If you get the absolute best, then you'd rather have Mike Evans. But I think, that prototype is probably hits more with Chris Godwin. But Mike Evans is a special case. I don't want to make out that you just look like Mike Evans and you're suddenly a successful. Quan Treadwell certainly wasn't. It doesn't mean you're going to be a pro-ready NFL receiver. Mike Evans is a very special player. So, I think coaches who could do for wide receiver, especially, Dallas isn't a good example because they have CeeDee Lamb who plays the slot already, but I just think Ibuka is just going to come in and hit the ground running, and especially the second wide receiver at plus 650. There's a reason it's short price. It's more likely. I would take him over Matthew Golden every single day of the week and twice on Sundays. So, you've already touched on it, so I don't need to cover it too much. Second D-line edge, Michael Williams, plus 1,200. Again, this kind of requires a Mason Graham fall because it is D-line / edge. Abdul Carter is obviously going to be number one. But just, again, some of the talk I've heard about Williams this last week or so, teams love him. He interviewed so well. He's moving up draft boards. Maybe he's going to actually end up being the third one, which I think is probably more likely. But again, at plus 1,200, I just felt it was a shot worth taking. Teams, I think, are more likely to gamble on edge than D-line, inside D-line, D-tackle, sorry. And again, there's a reason it's 1,200. I think Mason Graham is more likely to go off. But if you give me to 1,200 on a player where I think it's probably a 70-30 shot, I'll happily take the 30 at plus 1,200. I'll rattle through a few more because I have a ton here before I get your reactions. Player pick number. So at number 4, the heavy favourite is Will Campbell. I've gone with Membu at plus 1,400. I don't think it should be that locked on that it's Will Campbell. I think there's as much chance that you get a left tackle out of Membu asking him to change sides as you do Will Campbell with, what would be hopefully one of the shortest arm ranges in the NFL to play tackle. And he might not like that, but it's just true when you look at all the left tackles in the league. It's much more likely to me end up playing left guard, and number 4 is a high price to pay for a guard who isn't Quentin Nelson. Let's be blunt about it. He isn't. Very good player that he is. I'd be delighted with him at 12 to Dallas, but 12 and 4 again, very different. I've also, so that's plus 1,400 on Membu, who I think is a better pure tackle than Campbell. One that I placed, and I probably wouldn't place it today, truthfully. Shedeur Sanders at plus 2,100, plus 2,000, 20 to 1 to go 4 is basically based on Mickey Loomis panicking and someone getting in his head that someone else is going to move up for Shedeur. That was placed in the wake of Derek Carr going down or saying that he's injured, whatever the truth is with Derek Carr, we don't know. And I just think, again, we're not taking much to trade up this year. I think the Patriots would love to move to 9 and maybe end up getting a Membu instead of a Campbell, maybe still getting Campbell.
We'll get Campbell, yeah.
And just give up a little capital to do so, or gain a little capital to do so. And, New Orleans tick off their quarterback of the future early on. Don't need to worry about it. So, 20 to 1 again, I think that's kind of worth the squeeze. And then the last one I just placed recently, Ted McMillan to the Jags, or pick 5, but I think it'll be the Jaguars, at plus 1,700. Todd McShay's kind of spoke in the last 24 hours. I think it is even maybe the last 36 hours of Jacksonville, despite all the talk of Mason Graham, he thinks they're more likely to go offensive playmaker. And to me, that says it's either Genty or Tet, unless they go really wild with wide receiver. He kind of ruled out it being a tight end, in his opinion. But I think if they're going to go offensive playmaker and you get 1,700 on one of the best 2, then I think you just kind of take it and hope for the best. I obviously don't think it's nailed on, but at plus 1,700, I think it's certainly worth a gamble. And I've just rattled through about 8 bets. Any you hate, any you like?
Yeah, I'll go with this. So I do like that Williams one. Just I think if Mason Graham doesn't go to the Jags, and you look at the, to the Raiders, I don't think they would go there. Jets, I don't think they would go there. So it'll come down to the Panthers, and the Panthers, they need an edge or a tackle. They probably need more an edge more. So that's where they could gamble. I think that's where the price would be. So it's basically all down to the Jags one. And yeah, the other ones make complete sense. I think that technically is relying on Jags not trading out. I'll probably look for bets close to the time about how many trades there will be in this draft. I think there's quite a few, and I think Jags are one of them teams who'll be willing to, like, if anyone is falling in love with someone at 5, we'll trade down to 12, 13 and give us an extra second rounder. I think like you've mentioned, they're not, terrible at any position, but they're not amazing at any position. So it's just getting better across the board. So, and I don't think no one would trade up for Tet, obviously, because I think even if they got traded down to the mid-teens, they could still get him there. So I think it all depends on that one. But yeah, the other ones make sound sense for, especially with the price as well being so high. So yeah.
Cool. And then the biggest bulk of mine is position of team first pick. So I'll get into those, and I've just got a few first round pick long shots that I like. So I'll just rattle through these in order, give kind of a brief explanation, and then kind of shout out any you disagree with or hate or like at the end, I guess. Bills wide receiver plus 1,300. It's kind of one I just don't really understand why it's so long. They're heavily favored to take an edge player or a cornerback, which are both kind of positions of needs, but they traded up, just traded for Amari Cooper last year. They don't have a deep speed receiver. Everybody's a slot get open guy. Kincaid, Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman even. I'm sure they brought someone in this offseason who kind of does the same thing again. I can't think who it is. But they lost Mac Hollins, and he shouldn't be the focus of your offense. But they just don't have someone who can hit that. So if Matthew Golden, I think, falls, if Luther Burden's available, they need a burner. And I think, again, at plus 1,300, I just don't really understand why it's such a long price. The Bucks to go linebacker plus 400. And essentially, if you could let me just say Jihad Campbell there, I probably would have done it. I think that's one of the best team to position player fits in the entire draft. It's just a case of if he falls that far, I think at plus 400, I think if he's there, and Jason Light is running to the board and saying, yep, we take Jihad Campbell. Washington Commanders to take a running back plus 1,000, 10 to 1. Just again, the odds indicate that they're going to go. Where are they going to go?
Washington. They're D-line and edge as well, aren't they?
Yeah, they're D-line and edge as well. And yeah, so
O-line second, yeah.
And again, not that they don't need that, but I just think, I suppose you're not Paul so much, but like the odds are indicating that we're going to see Genty go, then we're going to see Amari and Hampton go. And then to me, if you can put Travian Henderson in there, because I think you kind of, I don't want to be dismissive, but like you plodder running backs. One thing, Brian Robinson could do that job all day long. But if you can sub out Austin Eckler, who's aging, and he had a few good games last year, but he's showing his age a little to me, and putting Travian Henderson there, I think the ceiling of that offense raises instantly, more than you're going to get by adding an O-lineman, because Jaden Daniels covers a lot of that issues for you. Wide receiver, 20 to 1 for the Dolphins. Again, just based on the Tyreek Hill, I imagine he's getting traded on draft day. I'm not 100% sure, obviously, but at 20 to 1, and we've talked about this a lot, the Dolphins could do basically anything other than take a running back with their first pick, I think, and I wouldn't be stunned. I'd be surprised if it was quarterback, but I don't think I wouldn't be as surprised as Penix last year, let me tell you. So I just think 20 to 1 on kind of any position of need is a bet worth taking. So, yeah, I'm happy with taking the Dolphins 20 to 1 for a wide receiver. Jets running back. Again, this one's kind of taken on hints and speculation from the media. And Aaron Glenn coming out and said he wants a committee. I think they would struggle to say no if Ashton Jennings there. And they can trade away Breece Hall and get some capital back later.
That'd be surely contended on moving Breece Hall on, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not going to struggle to move Breece Hall. You're not going to get a first-round pick or a second-round pick back, but he's in a contract year. There's no fifth-round option because he was a second-round pick. So, essentially, do you want to pay him top money, or do you want to pay that money to Ashton Jennings, who's younger and, let's face it, a better prospect? And I like Breece Hall, but Jennings is better than him. And again, it's 3,500. Not one I anticipate happening. I think they go to lineman. I'd be surprised if they go tight end. I know Tyler Warren's a short price, but I'd be surprised. It feels like such a luxury to a team who shouldn't be dealing in luxuries. But I mean, you could say the same about running back, but tight ends plus 280, running backs plus 3,500. So I would much rather back one than the other. I'd double down on the Raiders. I went linebacker initially thinking Javon Walker would be their pick at plus 1,000. And then I also added a little sprinkling of plus 1,800 at wide receiver. Again, I just think they could go Genty, but I think they'd be better suited taking a running back day 2, day 3. Maybe Pete Carroll gets on the phone to John Schneider. I've heard this talk, and maybe get Kenneth Walker in the building. And yeah, I think they'd be better just going wide receiver. Ted McMillan. Terry McMillan features quite a lot in these things, even though he's not my wide receiver one. I think a lot of teams are going to view him that way. And they're so desperate for a wide receiver. You can get running backs day 2, day 3, not a problem. So plus 1,800, I just think that's a really nice price. Talked about the Seahawks, tight end, plus 650. And yeah, I had the Saints taking the quarterback of their first pick at plus 2,000, 20 to 1. It's now minus 105. I wouldn't back it at minus 105, I must say. But yeah, 20 to 1, I was delighted with. That was well before Derek Carr got injured. That just seemed like a logical fit to me. So yeah, and then my last 3 bets, and I know I've been going for a while here, I took an awful lot of volume on this draft, is first round picks. So Elijah Arroyo, the tight end, who's kind of projected early second, I think could maybe just sneak into the end of the first, maybe Philadelphia, because Dallas Goedert appears to be another one who's going to be on the move draft weekend. He's plus 1,400, Elijah Arroyo. JT Tuimoloau is plus 1,900, the edge rusher from Ohio State. Again, he's got what seems to be a late first, early second grade. We're expecting, we've seen in our fans on the clock draft, it's edge. So another one sneaking in there, plus 1,900, I think is well in the realm of possibility. And kind of doubling down on those late first, early second range tight end, Mason Taylor, Jason Taylor's son, the NFL lineage at plus 450. Philadelphia could do anything really, but I think they'd be happy getting a good tight end to replace Dallas Goedert at the end of the first. Chiefs maybe to usher out Travis Kelce. I think there's a couple little options there that could come into play. And it only takes one again to like any one of these players. So that is my entire draft board. Sorry, it's a lot. There's a lot to listen to there. A lot of me rambling on. Anything you love? Anything you hate?
The Saints one intrigues me. The Saints quarterback first pick, because and that's back. I don't know if you've seen it or whether it's just with a different. Because Bet365 got it at plus money. It's plus 120, so it's not a massive move.
Okay.
If it is, I'm still not convinced it would be Shadur either. Like I think they could just make a rogue move and take Jackson Dart.
Me too, yeah. And the closer it gets, the more I think it will be Dart. And you're actually right. I've just loaded up DK, and it's actually D-line edge is a favorite now. Quarterbacks plus 200. So yeah, like I said, I wouldn't have backed it at minus 105, and it's up to plus 200. So don't need to.
So that one really, really intrigues me. I like the shouts on particularly those kind of on the peripheries of the first round, maybe sneaking in, because we see that, and we've talked so much about it just being much of a muchness, so there's no reason why those guys can't sneak in, especially got 14 to 1. Arroyo, and great job on the Ohio State edge rusher pronunciation, by the way. Yeah.
To me, Brugler and the Beast for giving me a pronunciation guide.
Yeah, plus 1,900. I think it's good, because I think there's just it's just much of a muchness, and there's a couple of ones that those impact maybe. Ones because I'm just trying to weigh up and see how the end of this first round's going for the conference players bets, which I'm seeing like I'm really liking. I don't know this isn't coming, but a couple, let's say 1 or 2 of those sneak in. In our fans on the clock draft, we had 16 SEC players go. Under 14.5 SEC players at 2 to 1 is really screaming out to me, where I think actually maybe it might be a couple more of the Big Ten players that come in. So that would mean a couple more of the Ohio State players go in. Maybe the tackle, Simmons, maybe the edge rusher, just to sway that balance a bit. And you end up hitting the over on the Big Ten and under on the SEC. But 2 to 1 under 14.5 SEC players is screaming out to me that if there isn't that, and that in our draft, fans like that came with all them edge rushers near the end, pretty much. We have that run. If that doesn't happen, maybe you end up 14, 13 SEC players in the first round.
And yeah, I don't know if you have it up. I don't know the college who plays where, but you mentioned the Big Ten. It's over 9.5 is plus 120 with DK. So, Trevian Henderson, I think, would fall into that as well.
So I
suppose Ohio State, right?
Yes, you'd be looking at Carter, Graham, Warren, Harmon, potentially. That's who went in our fans on the clock draft, but I don't necessarily will go. Grant also going, so you'd need kind of both those Michigan D tackles to go. Will Johnson, Egbuka, Loveland, and then you need maybe some more Connolly, one of the Oregon guys, and then you need your Simmons, and you need another, probably another Ohio State player probably to make it. Try to think if there's anybody else from the Big Ten, probably not.
Not wild though, certainly, and maybe better off taking that under 40.5, like you said, though, 2-1.
Yeah.
Grand. Well, Joe, any feedback, or do you just want to move on to your sheet?
We'll just move on to mine. I think Paul's a bit of feedback there.
Perfecto. There we go.
Giving you a bit of feedback.
Cool. All right, I'll go for mine. So we'll start with draft position. So I've gone for two players who have. Yeah, I think it's very interesting. So first one, I've got Mike Green, under 17.5, a plus 225. I've gone for this one because I think the Bengals are taking him at 17. So it's a very one on the edge where if the Bengals don't take him, obviously he's going to be over. I'm not quite sure if anyone underneath. I think we talked about him, the fans on the clock, and it's, you project him where he's going to be. And I think the Bengals are that kind of team who think like that. So I think he'll go at 17, because they'll definitely go edge rush. I'll be surprised if they don't. And then the other one is Ted McMillan, which we've talked about. I've got him going over 17.5, a plus 160, so opposite to Paul. I think he's been sliding down. I think players like Golden, I think teams fall in love with that kind of player, especially near the draft time, and they convince themselves he's going to be this kind of wide receiver where he's going to blow the doors off. And if he doesn't go top 10, obviously I don't think the 49ers will get him. The Cowboys an option, Dolphins. And then after that, I don't think the Colts will get a wide receiver, Falcons or Cardinals or Bengals. So then it will be 8th above. So I've got that McMillan slips down the board and doesn't go in the top 10. So that's plus 160. And I'll just jump on another one of the best, which is linked to that. I've got Golden actually going the first wide receiver plus 160. Again, I think he's got I think there's like 3 or 4 of the wide receivers. It's just depending on the fit and also the what people fall in love with. I'm not necessarily saying I think he's going to be the best wide receiver or that he deserves to be the first one. I just think a team could easily fall in love with him and say, that's our guy. Any thoughts on them draft kind of position bets?
I think Mike Green is a real interesting one. I'm just trying to find the data I had on it, but it was Hayden Winks yesterday. He doesn't have a single top 30 visit with any team in the NFL. He has 2 sexual assault allegations in his past, and as Hayden phrased it, basically the backstory in those must be either obvious teams or nobody's trying to show off their interests. So the Bengals, I think, is kind of where his line is. I totally agree. If you take away the off the field, I think the line's probably not 17.5. It's probably more like 11.5, maybe 10. So if those allegations and his character is not an issue, then I think that smashes. So I certainly like that thing there, because I don't want to say that's all we've heard about him, but he has no injury, that's holding him back. Character stuff obviously is something, but if teams don't regard it as an issue and it's just allegations and nothing came of it, then I think talent-wise that absolutely smashes, and I think the Bengals is where his run would end logically. Yeah, so I like that one at plus 225.
Yeah, I think makes sense. I think we talked about Green about while he had kind of production in terms of sack numbers, it's the level that he's done it at, which is concerning. Is that would that be maybe where some from the other conferences, just mentioned maybe some of the SEC pass rushers end up, coming ahead of him? I don't know, but yeah, I like it. I think maybe any sort of slide would stop there at 18. Like I don't think the Bengals at that point, if some of the others have gone, would skip him. And ultimately, I think in the main, these teams don't care about the character concerns, do they? If he's not getting a suspension, they don't care.
And if there's no video.
Yeah, if there's no video.
Video is crucial, as we've seen over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go play about what pick number. So I've still got Abdul Carter at number 2, plus 475. He shot up with obviously the Travis Hunter news and the Browns leaning that way. I still think they could go Carter. I don't know. I just think for me, having them two edge rushers would just completely change that defense. Like they've already got Ward at the cornerback, and obviously Hunter helps on the offensive side as well. And it seems like they're kind of team who would play in both positions. But I just thought at that price, I think he could still change. Like there might just be trying something or. Carter at plus 7.5, number 2. Number 8, I've got Graham at plus 850. So this is what I talked about the Panthers. If the Jags don't go that way, then I think it's the Panthers to decide between Graham and an edge rusher or a linebacker. And how Graham has been mock draft, he's probably been above the other two. So plus 850. So it all depends on the Jags pick. And finally, I've got Will Campbell sliding down to 10 to the Bears at plus 1200. The Bears are an interesting team where, I think if Gentry's there, they might go there. They'll probably go there, but I don't think Gentry will slide that far. So are they going to go the smart pick and keep building that offensive line, which we talked about? What do the Lions do? They got their line sorted. I know they've made some moves in the offseason, but, the O-line is never set until you get some young players and you draft them. And I think if Will Campbell's there at 10, I think they'll snap him up because we talked about it in the fans draft how the Cowboys would be running up there at 12. I don't see why the Bears wouldn't be doing the same if he's there at plus 1200. I think that would be great. And I think it depends on what the Patriots do in that sense because it's still not, because it seems like they're the favourites to take him at 4. And if they do go, remember, will the Jets take Will Campbell as well, or will they go a different position, maybe tight end? So it depends a lot. Obviously, that's why the price is at 12-1. But yeah, I think Campbell at the Bears. And I just finish off the position play. I've got Campbell to be the first linebacker at plus 500. It just feels like it's a coin toss with him and why is his name just escaped me?
Javon Walker.
Yeah, Walker. So I think it's what the team, what they prefer and what, again, fits in their scheme. If Graham does slip down to the Panthers, because it looks like Panthers are the ones who's been the team drafting Walker, would another team take Jihad Campbell instead? And a plus 500, he's the one with the better odds in terms of between the two. So because it's a coin toss, I thought go with the plus money. Any thoughts on the pick numbers or the position?
Like it. The one that really catches my eye is Will Campbell at 1200. And I'm just galaxy braining a little. What if the Bears want to get ahead of everybody and take Ashton Gentry and move up to 4? Mm-hmm. And then they go back to 10. They get Will Campbell, who that is their number 1 pick. That, to me, I hadn't considered, but I really like that outcome. For both sides, really. I love the Bears getting Ashton Gentry. But yeah, I think that plays out really nicely at plus 1200. Abdul Carr at plus 500, essentially. I don't think it's going to happen, but I can see why it's enticing at plus 500 because, maybe the Browns are just playing a cool game of bigging up Travis Hunter. And like you said, it must be appealing to have those two pass rushers opposite each other. And, if you go back a month, you weren't getting plus 500 on Abdul Carr going second. So I like that as well. And yeah, Jihad Campbell, I really, really like as a player. So plus 500 again. I think it'll be Walker, but at plus 500, I'm happy to. Yeah, I'd be rolling the dice on that as well. I think that's a great price.
Yeah, I like the positions you've got. Like the potentially some great value there. And like I say, when early seems to be all settled, it's just one thing, isn't it? And that's all you're kind of betting for here. Actually, one thing just needs to happen early that we're not expecting. Yeah, and everything's in play for you. So yeah, like it.
Yeah, and like I said, with the Jags, someone could easily trade with them, and then that just pushes everyone down. People start panicking, and these players start slipping. We've seen it plenty of times. So I've got the position of the team's first pick. I've got the Broncos taking a tight end at plus 850. I think Loveland's going to be there, and it's basically the choice of the one tight end side, or I know they got one in, but you never can draft enough young players, or do they go wide receiver? I understand what Byron was mentioned about running back. I think that's a bit too early for the Broncos, so I've gone tight end to shore that up, and they can play plenty of two tight ends in that system, and that's at plus 850. I've got the Colts going cornerback at plus 1,000. Again, I think some of them cornerbacks could slip down, and the Colts might have the choice of which cornerback do you want, Byron or Johnson. And I think, it's it was a defense what we all thought going into the year was going to be a difference maker. They obviously got Latu in last year, so do you want to go edge again? That offense does need some weapons. I don't know if they'll go wide receiver, but when you can get the top cornerback in the draft at that point, I think that could be a good shout at plus 1,000. Same with the Bucks. I've got plus 400 just because, Todd Bowles loves his cornerbacks, and I think a lot of the cornerbacks are going to slip down to like the late teens, 20s, and I think a few teams are going to try and jump up and move around, and I think it might fall nicely to the Bucks, who might even take like the third cornerback on the board. I think they still need them, so why not? I've got the Chargers going wide receiver at plus 500. Again, I think a few of these wide receivers will also slip down as well, and then they might have a choice between Golden, Wood, McMillan, be there, might be especially when I've said the over 17.5, and if Loveland's gone already, they're a team where, you may have hit on your wide receiver last year in the second round, but they still need a lot more to help out. Justin Herbert, we saw that, Quinn and Johnson is not the guy that they wanted him to be. So if they're still, the top 2 or 3 wide receivers on the board, they might just go for it, and with it plus 500. And finally, I've got the Saints going linebacker at plus 1,400. I don't think they're going to go quarterback. I always say this every year, and we're always surprised when a quarterback does go way too early to a team we're not expecting. I just don't think it's a smart move for the 2 quarterbacks which are there to go. I think they might be able to still get Dart in the second round, especially that high up, or they could just trade back into the end of the first round and play it smart that way, get a blue chip kind of player where they are, and then get your quarterback, trade some draft picks, maybe move up to where the Vikings are or a team like that. So why not go linebacker if Campbell or Walker is there, because they're a team which needs a lot of players in a lot of positions. So get the best available, which will be one of them 2 players. Excellent. Any comments on any of them 5?
Yeah, I think Chargers at 5-1 plus 500 is great value for wide receiver. We talked about the need, and they're likely going to be in the mix of some like 6. I just think they just aren't going to necessarily. I think you might be set there where maybe only 2 have got, max 2 have gone at that point. Again, putting Travis on it to one side. So that's, you got someone quite high up on your draft board, you've got first round grade on, then at 20 odd, why not pull the trigger? So yeah, I like that plus 500.
Yeah, I love the Chargers as well. That was in my initial list, actually. I just never got around to actually backing it, weirdly. When you said that one, I was like, wasn't that in my list? But yeah, I didn't actually back it. I put it in my blue sky thread of picks I liked, but never actually backed it. And I love, again, I said this on our Fans on the Clock as well, I love the Colts not taking a tight end, because everyone just seems obsessed that they're going to do it. And I just don't. They need a tight end, obviously, but like their issue is getting the ball to the players they have, not really who's catching it. Like they do need a tight end. I think they will get one, but I think it to be such short odds is a little wacky to me. And I think cornerback would help them so much more. And yeah, between them and the Bucks, like you say, it could be cornerback 2, 3, 4 even. I think Will Johnson's going to fall. Again, kind of reading the tea leaves a little here. Not running the 40, I think, has got teams scared a little of how bad that 40 is. Because if you're fast, you run, right? And if you want to hide it, you don't run it. So, yeah, I think Will Johnson very much in play for both of those teams. And yeah, plus 1,000, I think, is a really good price for the Colts, certainly.
So good. I just did my last bet. So it's positions being drafted in the first one. I've got quarterback under 2.5. I think more is getting to it. I think it'll be 2. I think it'll be 1. Obviously, Cam Ward is one. And I think the second one will be late in the round. I think someone's going to is going to trade back up. If that's the Browns, if that's the Saints, getting into that mid to late 20s. There's a few teams who, even like the Eagles, for example, pick 32, some team might just say, okay, move 9 spots and we'll give you a second, third rounder. But I don't think 3 will go. I'll be surprised, but, I think I'm surprised every single year. when more quarterbacks go.
Yeah, when we sat there, 5 went or 6 went, whatever it was.
Yeah, and we sat here and 5's gone in this draft for some reason. I've got offensive lineman under 6.5. I think 6 will go. I think I picked the 6. Who I think will go. I think, obviously, the main guys we've mentioned already. Campbell, Membu. I think Zabolo will go. I think Banks and Simmons. So that's 5 there. Maybe even Buckhurst. That might be 6, but I don't think more than that will go unless there's a run on linemen. I think there's quite a few linemen available, so I think teams will hold off. And finally, I've got over 15.5 offensive players to go in the first round at -110. I think when I worked it, I had 17 players would be my mock when I was looking at the teams and what I think they'll draft. So I think it'll be an over this again. I think it was last year was more offensive players as well. I think it was that huge run on offensive players. So
it was the first 15 picks, wasn't it? Or 14 picks till Lati went to the Colts. Whatever.
If that happens again, I'll be super delighted. Be nearly hitting there if that happens. But yeah, I think it'll be an over as well. So most of them are more around evens than free bets. A few higher and lower.
Excellent. Yeah, I like the old line one under 6 now because I think we're going to have a late rush I think there's going to be a late run on I kind of think there's going to be a late run on the pass rushers. So yeah, I think that kind of will bump the old tackles maybe to more the top and mid of the second round. So yeah, I do like that. And yeah, the quarterback. Just thinking about the quarterback thing as well. And I know what's happened with Shadur and then the Jackson Dart talk. Jalen Milroe, second quarterback to go, plus 650. I don't.
One.
Yeah, I mean,
Steelers have had him in for a visit.
Yeah, I think the price is probably what's tempting me because I don't actually think he'll be any good, but someone's going to think they're going to get a star, and I just don't see it.
Do you think it'd be like a second rounder, like everyone's comparing like Jalen Hurts, that kind of range? Do you think he's a first rounder?
I don't think he should be a first rounder. I think second, maybe third, but obviously it's just that premium on quarterbacks, isn't it? But yeah, I just see. I think also we discussed that. I discussed it live. I don't think any of these quarterbacks are going to be good. Like that's the thing. And after Ward, and I still think Shadur is the second best of them. I think there's a big drop off, and yeah, I just don't see it in this class. And maybe one of them late ones will end up being kind of serviceable and good for kind of where they get. Maybe it's a Will Howard. Charles Scher is one we've talked about a little bit. Scher, I'm going with out of Louisville. Could he be one that creeps up into the second round? Maybe, I don't know. But I think if you're after one of those guys, you can wait a bit and maybe take them on Saturday.
Yeah, I find it interesting. The offensive plays is over, and the O-line and quarterbacks are both under. Yeah. I think that math still works out though. Like, essentially, you just need 4 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, 3 running backs, maybe. It's roughly about that, isn't it? So, yeah, I just found it interesting. Like under, over for the overall positions. But yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah. Excellent.
Cool. Right, gents. Any more?
Well, what I was going to ask, has anybody got a spicy hot take they want to put out before? So we've got our mock draft live show tomorrow coming out, or it might be today by the time you're listening to this. But that'll be Tuesday, live on our Twitter, live on YouTube, live on X, I guess we say, rather than Twitter nowadays. But
it will be when I pay Elon.
Yeah, let's get that done. Yeah, any hot takes you want to shout out, or?
What, just in general from the class or for what we're going to see on Thursday?
So the one I was kind of formulating in my head is I think we're going to have exactly 3 quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers go in the first round.
3 of each?
Yep.
So is that Ward, Sanders, and Dart?
Ward, Dart, and another.
Ooh.
And then I think it'll be Genty. I think he said Judkins. Genty, Hampton, Trevian Henderson. I think it'll be, not including Travis Hunter again, he's cornerback for all intents and purposes until we decide he's a wide receiver, which I think will be about day 2 of the draft when the Browns say he's our wide receiver 1. But yeah, I think we're looking at Tet, Golden, Egbuka, and then tight end. Loveland, Warren, probably Mason Taylor.
Interesting.
So I think I'm going to get 3 of each of those 4 positions.
That is interesting. 3 of each. I like it. I haven't got any sort of big takes. I kind of got what I'm expecting to kind of see after it. Like wherever he ends up, I'm expecting Shadir to hit the ground running relative to Cam Ward.
That'd be very, very fun.
Yeah, that's probably my one. And I was talking about this the other day, and like if Shadir does kind of go through that painful slide and what have you, I almost think they'd be okay with that because they just make a shitload of merch about it, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
They didn't believe in me. They told me I couldn't do it. They all doubted me. Run would come. Yeah, could be fuel, but I think you might just get a bit more solid play out of him, especially early on, than you will out of Cam. And obviously, if he does slide, while he might end up going somewhere that still is maybe a little bit needy, he's not necessarily going to go to a massive needy team, is he? Depending, so he might be set up in a better situation to achieve success earlier. Anyway, those are my thoughts, and we'll stop talking about Shadir now until draft night, I promise.
Or at least till our mock draft tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or today.
I'm going to say there's going to be the most trades ever in this draft. So I've been looking at the records. It was 43 in 2023. I was trying to look in first round, like the most.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I think there's going to be at least over 6.5. Where would you put the line? Where would you put the line? Amount of first round trades?
I think the line will be 4.5.
I'm going to go bang it over. I think it's going to be over 6.5. I think there's going to be 7 trades.
Nice. That's a lot of moving, isn't it?
It's a lot of moving.
How many was there last year?
On draft day?
Yeah. Well, just in general for round 1, I guess. Because I guess there was a couple early, weren't they? Like the Vikings and Texans and stuff like that.
I mean, if you want to go really early, there was Caleb Williams.
There was
Carolina.
that.
Yeah, let me have a look. See, I think I have this pretty available.
So there was 10 altogether,
and then 7 of them would have been on draft night.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, is that about right?
I thought PFR would have this clear, but they don't.
Yeah,
that's very
I think just again the nature of the draft suggests that there might be just teams more willing to move up and down the board, I guess. So,
and I can see a team like I said, the Vikings or them teams were like, "We'll drop Jags." I think Jags the team I'm banking will drop, and then they'll trade again. Then they might trade again. They might be like trade 3 times to go from
to trade it.
Yeah, from 5 to 16, and they just people just keep jumping up and whatnot.
Keep bouncing and never actually make the pick.
Yeah, loads of second, third picks.
There's a little bit of me that obviously because that would create some chaos, which is always fun and some unpredictability, but what it does do is add a shitload of fucking time to the draft.
Fine for me and Joe, we don't care. So.
Yeah.
On the Thursday night, and it's already a 5:00 finish. I'm probably after 5:00, so I don't have the day off work this time on the Friday, which was an error, a big error.
Quite literally what we'd call a rookie mistake.
Yeah.
Byron, over under how many times Paul says he's tired and needs to go to bed
before the end of this podcast or before the end of Thursday.
Before the end of Thursday.
Yeah.
Oh, right. More than there will be trades.
Before Cam Ward's announced as the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah. Every pick could be traded and it'd be over the amount of trades.
Yeah.
So grab a Red Bull. Stop complaining.
Some good feedback. Well, I'll take it on. Nobody needs a moany host, do they?
And yet here we are.
Right, let's wrap it up because we said less than an hour and it's been more than an hour. A couple of bits, I suppose. We're going to be test running our X account again to do our live mock draft. So our final mock draft will be obviously rotating the picks. So that'll be, I suppose, our final mock draft. Then we're live with the first round. We're hopeful of getting some guests in. I've been a bit slack on it compared to previous years because trying to do too much with this goddamn show doing other things. So we're going to try and get some guests in because that always adds to the fun. And we'll be live for probably about 15 minutes before the show starts, I think. I think it's due to start 1 a.m. UK time, so we'll probably be live 10 minutes before it. all the way through till the last pick is done. We'll have like our mock draft competition that we'll all have a go at predicting the full first round, etc. And we'll be obviously keenly watching to see how our bets do, and then reacting to the NFL draft. And then after that, it'll be winners and losers of the NFL draft, which will come out the week later. But we've got loads coming up, so stay tuned. Follow as always. You can find it wherever you can get your podcast basically now. So we'll just cut it to that. Also on YouTube, and follow the channels Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at GTW_GTC. And we'll see you live on Thursday night.